Hello and welcome back to AP World History Modern. Today we're going to begin our first day looking at topic 1.1, East Asia. Today is technically our first real day of the class, covering information that you will possibly see on the AP exam. So we're going to begin by contextualizing, as we will do on the first day of kind of every one of these different topics for Unit 1. Talking a little bit about governance and culture. And then off with a little skill practice. All right, but we start every day with some questions. So let's start with today's question. So based on your reading from last night, hopefully you can answer this. So go ahead and read through this. And when you're ready to move on, I'll pop the question up. All right, so read the question based on that, using that stimulus to help guide you. And what would you put for your answer here? All right, so what you're going to notice is this question is different than all of the kind of beginning questions that we've started class with thus far. No, this is not like a question that I would that you would see on a regular 10th grade history test. This is a skill application question, and this is the way the vast majority of your questions are going to be. From the College Board. So, you walk into this question, they assume you know what foot binding is. So it's not asking you about foot binding, it's asking you a skill question, right? So causation, comparison, or CCOT, right? You're seeing, one of those in here. So, and of course, if you did your reading, the homework should be pretty obvious. That being said, if you're trying to eliminate distractors, D is an obvious distractor because based on your reading from last night, you knew that foot binding as a practice is one of the ways that aristocratic women in China differentiated themselves, right, from non-Han Chinese women. But if you're looking for distractors, that's probably the only one you can easily eliminate. A, B, and C are all correct on some level. Right, so now you need to find the best correct answer. And of course, from your reading last night, you know that the patriarchal system grew stronger, right, during this era. All right, so that'd be the best possible answer, right? Even though B and C are both correct on some levels. This is more of an opinion, right, but still correct. All right, number 8. Okay, so take a minute and read through this. All right, so this is something you're going to be confronted with during this year where you've already done your homework for China, but you have not done a single assigned reading for sub-Saharan Africa. So the best thing you're going to be able to do in this situation is eliminate obvious distractors. So having done that, A, right, this is saying that China and sub-Saharan Africa are both similar because they allow women to have very little economic and political status. Well, I mean, that might be right. Maybe. Okay. Similar because both societies were matrilineal. Well, if you know what matrilineal means, then you know that China is not that. So B is obviously wrong. So B is an obvious distractor. How about C? Different because women in China had greater role in politics and economy. That's an obvious distractor. So C is obviously wrong. Well, how about D? Different, right? China and sub-Saharan Africa are different because some societies in South Africa were matrilineal and women were not as restricted as women in China. Well, that one might be right. So if you're looking for distractors, A and D are possible answers. Based on what you did for homework last night, you should be able to eliminate B and C. So that being said, if you know nothing about sub-Saharan Africa, then A and D are going to be it's going to be a coin flip, right? But by at least eliminating your obvious distractors, you've at least gone from a 25% chance of guessing it right up to a 50% chance of getting this one correct. So what did you guess? All right, maybe you guessed that. But if you guess B and C, then you need to think about doing distractor elimination with your multiple choice. All right. So as we begin the course this year, as our unit 1 and 2, this is where we're going to be looking at for the next for the next few weeks, really, about the next month or so, we'll be dealing with this time period, 1200 to 1450. And these are the major kingdoms and empires that we're going to be looking at. If you're looking at this right now and not a lot of this makes sense, and that's fine. This is day one. If you're looking at this at the end of Unit 2, right before the Unit 2 test, and things don't look familiar, then that is a quick and easy way that you can identify things to study, right? So by the end of the first 2 units, all of this should hopefully be, right, be recognizable to you. Right, you want a little bit of a close-up, right? And all of these images and this time grid, these are all created by an AP World teacher, Mr. Freeman. He's in Virginia, so he does some just unbelievable work. So I highly recommend his website, and I've already recommended that in class, and it's on Google Classroom. I'll link to his site as well. He also does some pretty cool videos. He's been doing illustrative examples as of late in the last year or so. And those are really, really good in-depth case studies. All right. So let's get moving with this. So today we're going to look at the song. In Unit 2, we're going to come back to China and look at the Yuan. This is the grandson of Genghis Khan. So Kublai Khan will establish the Yuan. And then we'll look at about the first half or so of the Ming before this time period ends. So for the time period that we look at the Ming, they will be kind of more outward looking, right? So, but as this time period comes to an end, as we kind of get to around the 1430s and 1440s, the Ming are going to kind of pull their treasure ships back and then become much more kind of inwardly focused, right? So we're going to look at this today, just the song today, and then on Wednesday, 2 days from now, we'll look at Japan and Korea, as well as what is Vietnam, right? So here's just some of the dynasties from old, right? From the old course. These are the dynasties that we're going to be looking at this year: Song, Yuan, Ming, Qing, the Republic of China, and then the People's Republic of China. So we'll be looking at those throughout this year. And because we do run the dynasties, a number of different dynasties, specifically Song, Yuan, Ming, this unit, and then Qing, the Republic of China, Mao. We'll be looking at Ding, Xiaoping. And then also we talked about Xi Jinping as well. So because we do look at so many of these dynasties, I do make as an extra credit assignment. Students can come up in front of the class starting tomorrow and basically until the end of April. You have until the end of April to come and stand in front of the class without any notes, and you can sing or say the China Dynasty song. It is sung to the tune of Frère Jacques, Frère Jacques, Frère Jacques. It's sung to that tune, right? And and if you want to just sing it as I do in class and just say it out loud, you can do that. Or sing it out loud like I do in class, or you can have this playing in the background. If you go about halfway through this, you can just have the tune playing. But I'll put a link to this on Google Classroom. And then there's also the Harvard professor singing it as well. So, all right. So you can, if you want that as extra credit. So that is all. All right. So the basic pronunciation: Shang, Zhou, Qin, Han. Shang, Zhou, Qin, Han. Shang, Zhou, Qin, Han. Sui, Tang, Song. Sui, Tang, Song. And then Yuan, Ming, Qing, Republic. Yuan, Ming, Qing, Republic. Mao Zedong. Now, in some of the songs, it's going to go Mao Zedong, Mao Zedong. For the extra credit, we do Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping, and then Xi Jinping, right? So Deng is takes control of China in the late 70s through the early 1990s. Very important, as we'll get to him. And then, of course, the current leader is Xi Jinping. All right, so that's out there if you want to do it. It's definitely something you can do immediately, or you can take until April, right, before you do it, or don't do it at all, right? There will be other extra credit optional extra credit assignments out there if standing in front of your class and singing this isn't for you. All right, so yes. right, so let's start and just do a little quick contextualization, right? So the kind of two predecessor dynasties that existed before the Sui. What do you really need to know about before the Song is the Sui and the Tang, right? So what do you really need to know about this? Obviously, it's during the Sui that Buddhism gets cemented in and established throughout China. But of course, the Grand Canal is kind of the big deal, right? So the Grand Canal, and you can see from this map, the Grand Canal is very extensive, right? Very, very large infrastructure project when it was created, right? So why would you create such a vast network? Like, why would you do this? So in class, we kind of just brainstorm ideas, and generally kids are pretty quick to come up with some ideas. Imperial highway system, moving of troops around quickly, and of course, transportation for trade purposes within are a huge one, right? So, so if we're to write down a couple of notes on this, as far as, Sui dynasty, right? Sui dynasty, am I frozen again? Why does it do that? I don't know why it does that. So now we got to close it. I apologize. I'm sure it's something I'm doing wrong. Yeah, I guess it's just freezing. Maybe it's our high-tech hardware we have at the school here. Let's see if we can't get that back up. There we go. All right, so Sui dynasty, right? So the Grand Canal system, right? And so what are the big reasons? Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so you just kind of went through. Right, increased communications, movement of troops, imperial highway system, link rice in the south to population centers in the north. All right, I just want to add a couple of things to that number 4. All right, so this is from your homework last night. You did talk about this, and this is your textbook doesn't say anything other than fast ripening. Right, fast ripening, drought resistant. Right, so that's what your textbook says about that rice. It is commonly referred to as Champa. Right, Champa rice is what you'll commonly see it referred to as. And it's called Champa rice because it comes to China via the Champa region of what is today Vietnam. Right, and it comes there because of the tribute, right? Because of the tribute system, right? Or exchanging of gifts and things that we often see. So gifts of reverence to China, or gifts of reverence from China, in exchange for that filial piety, right? That we see, that China wants. So it comes to China by this tribute system introduced into China around the 800s, early 900s, that we see it first introduced, because it is fast ripening. So from seed to harvest, you're talking about 5 months, right? So 5 months, fast ripening. Let's just kind of put 5, or let's kind of put here, 5 months. What does that equal? That equals 2 harvests per year, right? 2 harvests per year. 2 harvests per year equals 2 times, right? 2 times the yield per acre, all right? 2 times the yield. You're literally doubling your production, your food production. Right? And then when you start talking about things like drought resistant, right, that equals increased acreage. Okay, increased acreage that you can grow your rice on places you never would have been able to grow it before. So you're not just doubling your yield, right, per acre, you're increasing your acreage as well, right? So, and this kind of brings about, right? One of the great adages of world history, right? We now have more food. And what does more food equal? It equals a population increase, right? When more food is available, population increases. And sometimes in class, we'll kind of talk about this, at some point your parents 15, 16 years ago were probably sitting around the house and looking at their food pantry, and maybe it was full and they decided, this might be a great time to start having children. That's not how that works, okay? It's more along the lines of, with increased supply of food, we see, kind of less chance of famine, right? More stable food supply results in more children making it into adulthood, and et cetera, et cetera. Right. So more food equals population increase. Right. So and of course, Champa rice is what makes this possible during the Song, right? During the Song era. All right. So by the time our course begins, we're already seeing the manifestation of that, of that population increase. All right. So why have the system? Because rice is heavy. Right. So why am I talking about this? Rice is heavy. So, and of course, during the Sui, this predates the introduction of Champa rice, but you're still growing rice, right? Even before Champa rice. But you're also moving other heavy things. Like, what are the kind of things that are being used in China? Iron, coal. Those are the kinds of things that you're going to move along the canal system, right? Things that can easily be moved by barge. All right, during the Tang era, right? During the Tang era, obviously, this is the high point of Buddhism. So we're seeing increased literature. Okay, so woodblock printing takes off. We're seeing early paper, things like bills of exchange. Things that would increase commerce, or things that are being created because of demand by merchants, right? As commerce becomes more intense, right? So we also see gunpowder, the formula for gunpowder, which actually goes back to the Han era, is widely disseminated during this era, and so yes, but this is also going to be the period of the Allah Shan rebellion. So Buddhism is gonna go into decline by the end of this era, and we're going to see Neo-Confucianism. All right. So Confucianism is alive and well. Right. So civil service exams. We've already talked about these before. Buddhism peaks out during this era, but also the Allah Shan rebellion takes place during this time period, which is going to result in a reactionary move against foreign influences, Buddhism being one. And this is going to bring us now to the Song. All right, so let's stop contextualizing. So during the Song, before our course begins, we see kind of a unified kind of modern China, with the Song dynasty. But you are going to see pastoral nomadic group known as the Jin will come and take over the northern part of China, kind of before 1200. Genghis Khan, right, when you kind of start talking about the Mongols in Unit 2, Genghis Khan will himself conquer the Jin, and then it'll be his grandson, Kublai Khan, which will come down and conquer the Song. So the Song dynasty, though, this is kind of our continuation of the golden age from the Tang era of Chinese history. So we're seeing, movable type, right? So literature accomplishments, not necessarily for Buddhism in this case here, but for Confucian texts, right? We're seeing the first weaponization of gunpowder, flamethrowers. Obviously, the Archimedes had developed a petroleum-based formula for this, which was used during the Byzantine era. So we see, an example of a technological innovation that happens, kind of disconnected. At least we believe it's disconnected. And then, of course, we see for the first time in history flying paper. Right. So, and sometimes you'll see, we'll see paper currency. Right. Paper currency sometimes referred to as flying money, flying currency, just simply denoting the fact that we are no longer talking about a metal coin. We're talking about something that blows in the wind, right? So when you see that, it's referring to this innovation of paper currency. So I think it's made out of bark from mulberry trees, was the original paper currency, right? All right, so basics. Like, what do you really need to know about the song? Right. So most of this unit 1, deals with governance of places. So we're always kind of looking for governance, right? So Confucianism is back in a big way, right? Especially when it comes to governance. So we're seeing an intensification of these Confucian roles and relationships. The civil service exam, right, is continued and improved upon. And of course, the population increase that is happening as a result of Champa rice being introduced is going to increase demand for efficient bureaucracies. 2 days from now, we'll be looking at Korea and Japan, as well as Vietnam, and looking for examples of cultural diffusion from China into these places. All right, so we'll kind of get back to that. As far as culture, right, we see Mahayana Buddhism, having been introduced and established during the, or peaking during the Tang era. We're going to see it then, go on the decrease in influence in China anyway. At the end of the Tang and with the Song Dynasty, with the rise of Neo-Confucianism, right, which does some of that blending between Buddhism, right, and looking at it. We're going to see increased patriarchy as well, as your homework last night discussed. Right, and we do spend a decent amount of time in class kind of just talking about foot binding as an example, right? So, and we kind of look at this. Your book does a really good job at giving you some of that skill application associated with this practice of foot binding, right? So, this is one of those things that begins for a very specific reason. In class, we talk about what courtiers are. So courtier or courtier in like a more French European is kind of anyone who hangs around the court. So your book kind of is referencing it as dancers, but it could technically be a guy, who's an intellectual, or it could be a singer, someone who performs ballads. People who are around the court for various reasons are your courtiers, right? And so it has its origins, right, with a very specific moment, and then it's one of those things that catches on and becomes a cultural practice, initially amongst the elite, and then as something becomes a cultural norm amongst the elite, you then see it diffuse down, through the rest of society, and we make some comparisons in class, about things that are, kind of similar, right? So what are some things that are similar? And we do talk about, what is something that originates amongst the upper classes, disseminates down below, and then, of course, becomes more challenging for individuals who are not, living that upper aristocratic lifestyle. If you kind of think about this, put yourself in the position of a woman in, Song China, you can understand why it moves its way down this kind of socio-economic ladder. If parents want to have their daughters, matched with someone above their socioeconomic status, then this becomes something that you have to do. The issue becomes, what is the life like for a woman in the upper class, an aristocratic group, versus a peasant woman, who is working the fields all day long. The adult life of a person who is not in that kind of elite upper class is going to be an extremely painful one. Having to walk to and from the fields, getting water daily, doing the cooking and cleaning. This becomes an extremely painful thing, right? And but we do kind of make some modern comparisons, right, in class today. Is this or is this not similar to women wearing high heels in the United States today, and make an argument for or against it, right? So is this something that is similar, or is this not something that is similar? Most students will like to argue against that this is nothing at all like that. So as just purely to be a contrarian, I will make the argument that it is similar. So, But yeah, so that's just something that we do in class, just to get a little discussion started. All right, and then and if you did not do your homework last night, then Strayer does have an image of it. So I just kind of throw this in case students did not do their homework for last night, so that you can at least see what it is we're referencing. All right, so that is it for content. We're just going to do a skill activity, and then I will check back tomorrow. So, or I'll explain what to do with this, I guess. All right, so here's a passage. Right, so I want you to read this passage. I want you to find a claim, right? And then in class, initially, I'll have students identify one piece of evidence in this passage that supports the claim made by the author. And then if we did that in class today, which we did in some of my classes, what we'll then do is, come up with a piece of evidence from your reading that would support the claim made in this passage. Right? So you're doing three separate things here. You're finding the claim, finding the thesis of the author. Right? So all you have to do is kind of write down that sentence. Right? So which sentence in this excerpt is the claim, the thesis, the assertion, the category of analysis. All right? Which one is? So just kind of I want you to do, let me just kind of show you here. Just kind of see it clear on this. Right, so you're doing really three things. Right, so on your paper, however you want to orient it, okay? What is the claim? Right, so you would write the sentence. Right, two is, what is the evidence? Right, evidence from passage that supports claim. And really just a little bullet point, 3-4 words is going to be enough for that. And then what is some outside evidence? Evidence not in passage. So really just kind of use your homework. Could be even something we talked about in class today. Who knows? So that's what let me zoom in on that just so you can kind of see it. I just did it together pretty quick, so a little sloppy, but you get the idea. All right. So this is what you're doing for your classwork. In some of my classes, we did this today. In some of my classes, we're going to start class with that tomorrow. Right. But that is what we're doing. So if you're watching this at home, then if you are up to it, then you can just kind of throw that into an email and shoot that at me, and I'll get back to you, or you can write it down in a piece of paper and take a picture of it. Right, so go ahead and read through this, do that, and that is all for today. All right, so a couple key takeaways. Right, religion, economic, governmental structure in East Asia influenced by the region's hegemonic power. Right, China is the regional hegemon, the kind of cultural center which things are diffused out of. And we'll be looking at that again, with Neo-Confucianism and Buddhism being diffused out. Right, geographic and other factors influence levels of hegemonic influence on the peripheral states of East Asia. Right, and make sure your outside evidence supports the claim. Right, so not just a random piece of evidence. Right, a piece of evidence that supports whatever the claim is in here. Right, once you find it. All right, that is all for today. Let me know if you have any questions. And I look forward to seeing your responses. Sapriati.